Right now, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
More troubling news.
Yeah, I mean, the question is what level of due process is an employee of a private entity entitled to before the bosses decide we believe these allegations and you're out. It's obviously not the same level of due process as when the government wants your life, liberty, or your property. But there has to be some basic fairness. Now, from this, we can conclude that an entity the size of NBC, with the internal legal staff that it has, was advised there has to be some investigation. You have to ask the defendant his version, and then you can call it. You don't need a trial. You don't need confrontation. You don't need lawyers, but there has to be some basic investigation and basic fairness so that you are satisfied that the decision you're making is correct. Otherwise, he has a substantial cause of action against NBC because he's protected by a contract.
Well, Andy Lack, the NBC News president, in the statement that was put out, said that while it is the first complaint about his behavior in over 20 years that he's been at NBC News, we're also presented with reason to believe that this may not have been an isolated incident.
They can. That's a great observation, Dagan. And so the question now becomes, can they take into account what the law calls prior bad acts, uncomplained about, unprosecuted behavior, but behavior which, if complained about and if pursued and if proven, would be sufficient to fire him? And the answer is yes. They can take into account almost any information or data they can gather about him, as long as they present it to him and his representatives, and he and they have an opportunity to challenge it. Again, we're not talking about a jury trial. We're talking about something that can happen in 24 or 48 hours. I doubt that this broke last night. Yeah. It sounds as though it's been brewing for a little while.
Apparently, the complaint was made Monday night from one staffer. I don't know what happened in terms of looking at the past 20 years. In terms of his contract, does that mean it's over? There's no, I mean, because he's very highly paid.
Yes.
We know that.
There'll be a termination for cause clause probably in the
contract. If this is a termination for cause, then theoretically NBC would owe him nothing, and they would be exercising an option given to them under the contract. Now, his lawyers may very well say, look, here's 5 ways we can challenge this. We won't challenge any of it if you buy us out, and often that happens. But if NBC really wants to send a message to its employees and to the world, obviously, on this particular issue, they may say, we're not buying you out at all. This is for cause.
This is swift. This is swift action. If this allegation was made on Monday.
I am surprised at what you both told me, that it was made on Monday, because a person as highly compensated and highly regarded and well known as him, it's hard to believe that all of this happened in less than 48 hours, because it would take a while.
Andy Lack says in the memo, Monday night, Monday night, we received a detailed complaint from a colleague about inappropriate sexual behavior in the workplace.
Wednesday morning. So this due process, this basic fairness that your employer, who's not the government, owes you, really happened quickly.
Yeah. Let's recall the CEO of Comcast is Brian Roberts. Right. The Roberts family has ethics beyond reproach. It's been a family business way before it went public, way before, and I don't think he would ever put the reputation of his family and his company at risk, irrespective of how amazing this person may or may not have been on TV.
Yeah, but they're talking about 20 years, and in that time frame, the company was also owned by General Electric, not just Comcast.
Right. I'm just talking the Comcast.
Yeah, no, you're right, though. That's a good point about Brian Roberts. You want to quickly hit on the Consumer Protection Bureau? You've got Mick Mulvaney, a victory here.
Or the
it is a temporary victory. This was a preliminary application, meaning it goes back for a full-fledged trial, and then there's the right to appeal. Short circuit all this. The president ought to nominate today whoever he wants to run this entity permanently, and the Senate should confirm that person, and then this will be over with.
Will they?
Whatever you think of this bureau, it is entitled to a full-time director, not somebody that's going to work 3 days a week.
This is not about who should run it, but while we're going into a budget process, it's hard to believe that the head of the OMB should also be running the Consumer Protection.
Well, it's hard to believe that these two, Cordray and his Leander Costanza, as the Wall Street Journal calls her, did an end around, and it basically is an exclamation point on the fact that the Democrats created this Financial Protection Bureau
unaccountable
to get around the Constitution.
Unaccountable to anybody.
In a sense, I am glad that the litigation happened, as frustrating as it has been, because the American public is entitled to know, did the Congress enact some entity alien to the Constitution, immune from politics, insulated from the President of the United States? And if so, is that lawful and constitutional?
Yeah.
I know you're smiling because you know how I would answer that question. You'd probably answer it differently.
No, I'm smiling because they're screaming at me to shut up in my ear.
But I'm glad you mentioned in the op-ed in the Journal, a drama queen loses her head.
That's right.
Judge, good to see you. Thank you so much. Judge Andrew Napolitano there.